This week's presentation, who stole my joy? You know, I'm walking through the rain, and then I walk in and I see everything's drenched. I see stuff falling from the ceiling, and I say, I'm sick and tired of working on stuff, because all that happens is it just goes away. What's the point? Maybe your joy is taken away at times. Maybe you have pain in your life. Could be psychological pain. Could be pain that is real. Someone that's actually truly abusing you. Perhaps your joy is taken away because you're so busy trying to have fun, then you step away from the fun, or should I say the fun becomes boring, and then it comes even harder at you, so you find a way to fill the hole in your life. Have you been there? There was a book that was a powerful one called Challenge of the Disciplined Life, which I got in the class called Principles of the Christian Faith by Richard Fredericks. And that book called Money, Sex, and Power. Powerful book, actually. It deals with the three different things because each one intertwines with the other. It's like a kind of an unholy triad, you know, where money oftentimes is the way to get power or sex, right? Sex is sometimes the way to get power or money. Power is the way to get money, or does that make sense? Each one feeds upon the other. Each piece interlocks with the other one. But in the end, when you use any one of them to try to gain anything, it seems like joy to get what you want. You use your power over another person. Sometimes we do that at work to destroy another person, we use our power to lie to others and get away with something so that we can get money or the other, right? Sometimes we use all of these different, and I say we in a very general sense, human beings. And I'm sorry, if you're from the States or from Russia or from Iran, from Lebanon or from China or from South Africa or maybe these small little countries all around, you are the same. If you're from Fiji, you're the same. It is a universal idea. Everybody is the same. I know we've got skin colors, we've got languages, we've got ways of family lineages, but you know we all are equal in the way we are. Some people that are super rich deal with the exact same problem that the homeless guy deals with. It's just what they use and what the numbers are. One person has the same addiction and they spend billions for it. This guy is grabbing from someone on the street $5 so they can get their hit. Same thing. Same hit. And by the way, the guy that pays millions of dollars is no better than the one. And the one down here that's on the street is no better than the guy up here. See, I know we try to say that there are the good ones. Oh, this one's okay, but that one's not okay. And even in religious circles, we use religion to gain power at times, to gain money at times. I know it's really sad. You know, it was funny because when I was in Bangkok, Thailand, this is just a little joke, a little side joke. When I was in Bangkok, Anna told me that someone said that I was what is it? Oh, a Jesuit. Yes. You know the Adventists that say you're a Jesuit, you know? Have you ever heard of that? Some of you are going, what are you talking about? Well, there are the conservative Adventists that say, this guy's a Jesuit. He just wants us to unite with it. I'm like, I'm like, dude, is there a salary that comes with that? I'll take the salary, but I'm not getting anything. No, just kidding. Just kidding. In religious circles, we use power. It interconnects with money. It interconnects even on the sexual side sometimes. You'll find terrible things, and we've seen this even in Catholicism, deal with that, in the altar boys and things like this. We're all the same, my friends. There's issues all over. All have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. By the way, very important, when you get a chance, hit the call to prayer. I'm dealing with a very touchy thing. The first 3 chapters of Romans. It's tough, but it's worth it because it brings us to a point of being in need of God. Well, joy. Joy can be stolen from us. Joy, it seems, can be a very bad thing. Or a very tough thing. Not a bad thing, a very tough thing. There's a great book. I don't know if you've ever seen it, a little one called Happiness is a Real Problem, is a Terrible Problem. It's actually a very powerful book. It's cool. It deals with the meaning of life. But let's go to the book of Acts right now. Acts chapter 16, if you have it here. You have your Bibles here? Raise it up. You got it. You got your Bible? All right. If you don't have it, you can use this. But keep Facebook and Instagram and TikTok away from you for a few minutes, please. Actually, keep them away from you longer than that. But do not let your device control you. Are you with me? Do not let your device control you. Right? I know I do that over the top of the glasses. I'll be the professor. You must be in charge of your device. Don't let your device be in charge of you. So when you have your Bible, let's go to Acts chapter 16. And there in chapter 16, and this was Philippi, and all of a sudden there's this big uproar because some businessman is upset that a female, a woman who was literally, and in the ancient world, there was sex slaves, okay? There were people, you can find them in the ancient world. The little clasp that's bronze, you find these over in Bet Shean. When we go to Israel, you can see little ones, and it says, holy unto, and then the name of the person that owns her around the neck, the choker, so to say. And it was a beauty mark, but yet at the same time, it signified something, ownership. This woman who did prophecies for him, or would do like, prophecies. They would like a fortune teller, right? And this woman was going behind Paul saying that, listen to these guys because they're from God. Their word is from God. Listen to them. And Paul got annoyed by it. He's like, what? There's a spirit in this woman. It's weird. You know, sometimes people will talk you up and you're not sure if it's really good. Have you ever had that? And he says, may the spirit come out of you. And the spirit left her. And then she couldn't prophesy anymore. So the metal worker was angry. And he whipped up all the business people against Paul and Silas. It dragged them into the center, the city center. And Paul never said he was a Roman citizen, so they threw him in stocks in the innermost prison. This is in chapter 16. We'll start with verse 16. Once they were going to place for prayer. Let me move on, and we're going to get to verse 22 in chapter 16. The crowd joined in the attack against Paul and Silas, and the magistrates ordered them to be stripped and beaten with rods. By the way, this is a Roman city. Those Romans are in trouble big time for doing that. But Paul was very smart. I think in my call to prayer, I called this one shrewd. Paul didn't tell him he was a Roman citizen, because then he used power for God. You can't use power in a way that's for God. So they beat him, he took it, and they threw him into prison. And the jailer was commanded to guard them carefully. And when they received these orders, they put him into the inner cell and fastened their feet into the stockades. So you lock feet between two bars. You can't get them out. on a cold floor. If I was Paul, I'd be upset. You've stolen my what? Joy, freedom, but my joy is gone. The reason why I talked about money, sex, and power and all this beginning stuff is because we human beings find ways to have fun, to have happiness, to have joy. We say, if only I could have this feeling. So that's why we crave the drugs or the taste we want. We want the best tastes. But here's the problem with food when you crave it. You taste it, and then you become tired of it. Then you want to taste something else. It's skittish. It's like always trying to get to a finish mark that keeps moving, right? You never can cross over and just say, that was perfect, but then the next day happens. What's next? Drugs are the same way. You're happy. You forget about the problems, and then after you're drunk, you vomit. Right? Your health degrades, and so what do? You drink more so that you feel better again. Maybe even medications that we take, we do the same thing. We think that by chasing after happiness, we will find joy. But Paul and Silas are in prison, and about midnight in verse 23, Paul and Silas were praying and what? Singing hymns. Well, are you guys crazy? I can imagine the jailer. He's like, dude, you guys were just put in jail. You may be in serious trouble, and what are you guys singing about? You know, it's like today, we're listening to music. We're singing together. And we have a hard time even singing. It's like, this is my Father's word. You know, I'm talking about all of it. I wasn't, Maylin and Alyssa, you guys weren't doing that. But you know, I sometimes am. When I'm sitting there, I'm like, We're like that because we don't get into it sometimes. Maybe we don't know the words, even if they're on the screen sometimes. Maybe we can't read the words. But the thing is, we human beings, we always kind of, when we talk about being joyful, we don't really, we're looking and thinking about something else that'll actually bring us joy. Isn't that true? Have you ever been in a conversation with someone and you can tell they're not thinking at all about what you're saying? You're in a conversation, and it's almost like you want to start saying, well, we're working on this thing, and Mickey Mouse is coming tomorrow, and he's going to take care of just to see if they catch you. And after a while, what? Sorry, you're actually listening to me. That's good. All right, let's continue on. You know, we all human beings are so busy thinking about what we're going to say instead of listening. When we talk about joy, we are not very joyful. We're too busy thinking about what's going to happen after church so we can actually have fun. Paul and Silas, when looking for joy, decided that they had a choice to be joy. You know, the word joy in Greek is the word Cosette, Kara. You know that name, Kara? I think it's your granddaughter or great-granddaughter, Kara, right? Or am I wrong? Never mind. I messed up. They're Kara. You may have a family member named Kara. So the Kai, the X, Kara. Kara, charis, means grace. Kara is joy. Do you see the connection? Joy is not something you can do, it's something you can be. Are you with me? Who is someone around you that has grace? What does it mean to be someone that has grace? I know sometimes we do it like like I have grace. I'm very graceful doing the thing. But the reason why that idea came was because it's not about reacting. Grace is about motion. When you have a parent that always is upset at you because you did something wrong, then you're scared to tell them you did something wrong, right? Maybe that parent isn't so graceful in the way they communicate with you. Sometimes you might have a parent or a coworker or a boss that when you make a mistake, that person actually teaches you what to do through it. That's being graceful. Grace. That's being charismos. Charisma, you ever heard of charisma? In English, we have that. To have charisma is to care about that other person too. Not just to care about what I'm saying. The narcissist, it's all about me, and everything I hear, if I'm a narcissist, is there to then store so that I can get that person. I can pigeonhole that person. But charisma is to care about the other person and see what their needs are. You can be charismata. You can have joy through this. But this joy does not come from being out of prison or in prison. Joy that's like this does not come from eating ice cream all the time, though I would love to eat ice cream all the time. I especially like Cold Stone, and don't tell anyone at Southern California Conference, but I love the coffee ice cream. And that whole thing. We all have our things that we want, but imagine if you ate 24/7 coffee ice cream. Probably this time of year isn't so good for that, right? We love to get what we want. It's no different than getting a drug that keeps pulling you in. Maybe you may even be addicted sexually, to gambling, money problems, power. But you will find that addiction never really brings you joy because the hit that you get is never worth it. You know when it's a problem in your life. You know when it's a problem in your life by discovering whether or not when you gain, 10 minutes after, do you want more, or you don't really, it's almost like it never happened. You can tell when you need real joy in your life. Do you know why Paul and Silas had charismata, charis? Because they were joy. You can put me in a jail cell. You can stick me on a beautiful island and have white sand beaches. You can put me in a rainstorm. You can put me anywhere and I will still be filled with grace. Because it's a choice that is made based on something that Jesus does, not based on what you and I do. In fact, this brings me to one other text. Let's move to Philippians, which is the location where Paul actually was put in jail. Philippians chapter 4. And this was years later. But I love how Paul comes right back to this situation when he's in prison in Rome years later, writing a letter to the Philippians, not the Filipinos, to the Philippians. He gets to the Filipinos later, right? But the Philippians first. So chapter 4, verse 4. He says, rejoice in the who? Do you know the word rejoice is the word kairo? Kairo. Okay, K, I'm gonna call the Kai K right now just for everybody to understand. Kara is Kara, right? Kairo is K-A-I-R-O. Do you see the connection? So the A turns into a diphthong and goes boing into two. Kai instead of just Kai. Kairo. In other words, it comes from the same root word, is the point. Rejoice comes from joy, which comes from grace. And rejoice in the who? The Lord. In other words, Jesus is the source of that joy that flows like a river of life coming out of me. It makes the lame to walk and the blind to what? See, remember that? This is all the same stuff. This is the stuff you've heard since you were a child if you've been Christian, or if you've never heard it before, it's time for you to discover that the streams of life come from Jesus. They come from Him. They flow into you. And this is what gives you joy, even if your life sucks. Sorry, I just got to put it there. I could say worse words, but I won't. Even if it's horrible, even if your life is being twisted and turned by others who say they're holy. In society today, we have a lot of people who say they're holy. They may be on the right in the church, and they may be on the left in their church, right? But they'll tell you all kinds of things you're doing wrong to make you do what they want you to do. No different. The left and right are the same. They're just mirror images. You know how you look in a mirror? Have you ever noticed when you look at a mirror, everything's opposite? You ever notice that? Sometimes when you're doing the phone and you do a selfie thing, you ever notice some selfie things? You can see that the words are backwards inside. You know, sometimes their advertisement on their shirt is backwards because it's a mirror image. The left and the right is just a mirror image. I know we love to say, oh, this side's so good and that side's so bad. I'm sorry, it's mirror images, guys. Let's face it. You can see it. You give me one guy that's bad on the right, I'll give you one guy that's just the same as him on the other side, vice versa. It's just the way it is. The truth is, Jesus is different. He is wholly hetero. That's what the word in Greek is. He's different. Hetero means different. He is separate from us. He came into this world, but the world received him not. But to those who received him, he gave the right to become the children of God. And that's what you are, John says. When you believe in his name, that's who you are. You are his children. And he loves you so much. He wants you to have a life with real joy. Not this kind of joy like, okay, I'm going to take, this is how life is today. Hand, mouth. Hand, mouth. Every day we go to work to get money so that we can put food in our mouths. And you know what happens to the food? It goes right through here. And then it goes somewhere else. And we're not going to talk about that right now. Right? It's not real joy. We spend so much. And yet, it gives us so little. We spend so much for the car. And then the car breaks down. Sometimes before you're even done paying for it. We do so much for our buildings, and sometimes our buildings degrade. Unless that building is doing something eternal for God, it will not have a worth. Joy comes from allowing God to use you. And by the way, when you have joy, sometimes you're going to be upset. I get upset sometimes. Believe you me, I get upset sometimes. There are times when I get so upset, especially when I find out we worked on the roof, and now again it's pouring in. You know, we all get like that. But you see, the point is, what is the purpose for which we are doing it? I'm a pastor and I don't need to worry about that. Actually, I could just let it keep dripping and say, I'm going to preach sermons. I'll just come and preach for 2 hours on every Sabbath, and you guys do your thing during the week. I'll show up again next Sabbath. I could do that, but the thing is I believe joy teaches us to care because we're grace-oriented. We care. There's so many verses I should be in. Let me go to one that's a powerful one. Hebrews chapter 12. As we're coming to the end here, we'll come to a verse I love to quote. My son, John, loves to quote this one as well. It didn't hit me, actually, until he started quoting. I was like, man, I've read that before, but you go, John. All right, so chapter 12, Hebrews chapter 12. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of what? Witnesses. Do you know who that cloud of witnesses are? If you read chapter 11 of Hebrews, he's actually talking about history. You see, today's culture wants to erase history. We like to do that. I mean, that's the zeitgeist of today, is only today matters. It's a very Darwinian mindset. Only the future matters. The past doesn't matter. We were single-celled things that crawled out of the ocean, but we will be Uberman, Superman, as Friedrich Nietzsche said. Adolf Hitler was big into that too. And it was all, we're going to be the big guys. We got to get rid of all the past. Get rid of all the stuff from the past. And Paul does it totally differently. Paul says in the past is where we get our anchor. You find out, if you're worried about faith, go look at Abraham. See how he had faith. Go look at Isaac. Look at Samson. Even though he was a mess, God loved him. Take a look at all these people that made mistakes and errors and learn from them. Allow your life to have an anchor in the history that God gives you. And then he says, you're in the present. Now he's going to talk for a moment about the future, right? So the past matters. The future is where we are. The present is where we are. And our past put us here. Now how do we learn and make the future a better, what? A better place. So in chapter 12, verse 1, so surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders us. Let's get rid of the sin that easily entangles us. And let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us, fixing our eyes on who? Now you're going to look forward, fixing your eyes on Jesus. He is the pioneer and perfecter of our faith. So we don't think about Ellen White. She's in the past. Ellen White's good. She's our anchor to be able to understand things. Now what we do is we look to Jesus and we let the light that streams along the path, from the past, keep our eyes so we don't fall off the path. But then we look to Jesus, who is the finisher and perfecter of our faith, right? And then let's continue reading because Paul has an incredible thing here. Look to Jesus. He's the pioneer and perfecter of our faith. And then he does an aside here. And for the joy, read this. For the what? The kara. The joy set before him, he endured the what? So in other words, he knew everything was behind, and some of that stuff in the past was bad, and that was going to affect him right there. But he was looking forward now to what the possibility was. And you know what the possibility was? Having you and me and us in his kingdom. That's why he took on the nails he took. That's why he bled the way he bled. That's why he even said, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. It means, my God, why have you forgotten about me? Because God had to forget about, the Father had to forget about him and treat him just like any sinner. so that he might be the righteousness, so that he might die the death that you and I deserve, so that we can live the life that he deserved. He swaps it for us. That's where the joy came from. It didn't come from the morphine hit of joy. Now finally I feel it. It didn't come from the chocolate ice cream. It didn't come from the great sex on a night. It didn't come from all this stuff, all these little trivial things that when they're done, they're gone. They're gone like a vapor in the wind. The song that sounds so good at this moment, but in a year you're making fun of, right? The app that we think is so awesome that in about 8 months will go bankrupt because now no one's watching it, right? The channel that we think is awesome until it's gone. The movie, which is just so cool until everybody thinks it's dumb, right? My friends, there's no joy in it. You know who stole your joy? You did. Because when you try to find joy in stuff, you only find pain and suffering. You want to find joy? Like Jesus, he looked forward to the possibility of having you, and he says, I want you. I would die for you. If it all came down to just one person, I'd do it all over again. For the joy set before him, it says here, he endured the cross, the scorning, and the shame. But then he sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Consider him who endured such oppression from sinners, so that you will not grow weary nor lose heart. In a horrible economy, as it starts to come sideways, can you find joy? Yeah. One of the most amazing stories, I love to read about the Holocaust stuff. And it's not because I enjoy the Holocaust. It's because at a time of such evil, it's amazing that such good could come at times. And I look at guys like John Weidner that did so much. I know there's Schindler as well that did many things. Different people that tried in whatever ways. Their life, they weren't sure, but they found meaning and purpose and joy in doing something better. But even among some of the Jewish people that were caught, some of them, many of them died, but many others were able to find purpose through. You know, we all can find purpose, no matter what you're going through. But you must allow God's grace to be in you. You can't have chara, joy, without charis, faith, grace. You will find a joy that will overflow so that it cannot be stopped, even by death.